Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last and final talk of Sarabhai lecture series, completely online interactive talk sessions conducted by the Physics Club of SVNIT. Our guest today is very well known Dr. Himanshu Pandey, a condensed matter physicist and an assistant professor at the Department of Physics here at NIT Surat. He received his doctoral degree from Condensed Matter Low Dimensional Systems Laboratory under the Department of Physics at IIT Kanpur. His research interests range from magnetic materials, Husler alloys, magnetic nanoparticles, to thermoelectric materials and band structure calculations. He has published several research papers and articles in reputed international journals. He is currently working on the research project Investigation of Novel Husler alloy thin films for energy and spintronic applications. Today's talk is titled as A Journey Through Fascinated Materials, and I hope you will have a great time learning more about it. With that, I request our faculty advisor, Dr. K.N. Pathak sir, to please say a few words and extend our gratitude.
Thank you, Bhavya. And sorry to be, using the mobile. My computer is giving some trouble for some time. Uh, it is bit awkward and difficult to, welcome our own faculty in a sense. But anyway, let me do that. So we welcome Dr. Pandey for this, wonderful lecture series which we have initiated, and of course he's been with us for quite some time. And we thought that okay, let us have somebody from our own department to share the ideas and the kind of work which individual is doing. And that's why the physics club has come up with uh, this idea that why not we rope in Himanshu to give a kind of a talk, and it would be a perfect conclusion as far as our first series of Sarabhai lecture is concerned. Hopefully our next session or next series would be offline, and we would be able to replicate or rather improve upon whatever shortcomings we might have had due to some online kind of thing. Online is essentially reducing some kind of interactions, because face to face one doesn't see, you don't get a feedback kind of thing, kind of non-verbal feedback and other things. So that is somewhat creating a kind of a barrier between the speaker and the audience. But of course, when we have been through this journey, I could see that that barrier was somehow not obstructing our zeal of understanding the ideas and talking to the people and kind of thing. And we have been rather fairly happy and successful in rather expanding our horizons beyond some kind of the classical set of curriculum or courses which we are studying. So hopefully this lecture on fascinated materials, uh, I'm sure I to be very frank, because of my very limited understanding of on English language, is not very clear about the word fascinated. Hopefully, Himanshu would be able to clear it up, that why not fascinating, but why is it a fascinated materials. So you look for it and enjoy the lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us today. We are grateful for your support and encouragement. Now I invite Himanshu sir to please continue with the talk.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavya and Pathak sir, for nice introduction. I mean, though this was not required, at least for this, means we belongs to the same thing actually. Okay, I hope slides are visible. Then I can go for full mode. So they are fine. Slides are fine. Anyone please
Sir, we are still seeing your PowerPoint window. It's not in the full screen mode.
It's not in the full screen mode. Okay. So let me now. Is it fine?
Sir, your slides are moving perfectly, but like as I can see, you are on the third slide right now, but it's still showing the same Microsoft Windows, PowerPoint Windows. Like it's not in the full screen yet.
No, for me it's in full screen mode, and I was in the first slide, not in the third one. Okay.
Okay.
Sir, you can press on the tab.
So what I'll do, I'll just try to. What Ram Kumar was saying that share the tab.
Sir, the tab.
I was sharing the only that particular tab, the PPT.
Sir, you can try to share your entire screen. That should be better. Or if you have problem doing that, you can save the entire PPT as a PDF and then you can run it. That shouldn't be a problem.
I will share the entire screen, and
Okay,
then
sir.
let me see. So I hope this will work. So
yes, sir. Now it's on the full screen.
Now it's on the full screen. Okay. So so I start with this first slide, and most of the time we used to have the first slide as a title of the talk and the speaker detail. Anyway, because we will be talking about the materials, and we know that the materials are everywhere. Even if since the childhood we are playing with, let's say, toys, any other thing, whatever we have, and we played, or we started to let's say learning about the writing, anything. So all these things are, we know that they are materials basically, though we do not know about that. They belongs to basically, their ingredients belongs to basically the periodic table. But they are like so that's why I have chosen this thing actually. So the kids, they are playing with some unknowing blocks. They don't know about there, and they are trying to arrange them. And this is what actually the material scientists, they do. They basically play with the materials, play with the basically basic ingredients as per the requirement, as per the demand, and owing to the physical law, the chemical law. And they play, and they some sort of try to prepare new class of material. And as Professor Pathak was saying, that why I have chosen the word the fascinated, not the, because there are various means to my actually knowledge, there are various materials, they have fascinated the scientific community. And the new material has to be means or they have to be developed, or the previous materials which have been grown, they have to be, let's say, some sort of modified, or let's say to go for the better efficiency or better output from there. So the things has to be done in future. So those things I will be the things which would be fascinating, or which will be fascinating, I will cover it maybe in the 1 or 2 slides at the end of this talk. And so far I will be going through only those material which have fascinated the scientific community, not only in the let's say the physics, chemistry, everywhere, means all around, because the materials, they are not limited to the physics people actually, or the chemistry people like that actually. Anything it could be. So means there is no need to the introduction. So before going on, I would like to thank to the Physics Club, SVNIT, for giving me this opportunity to interact with you the people. And as Ramkumar was saying that this would be, and yeah, it is the last lecture, and they are trying to be more general. So I have not included any specific result, like let's say my research topic or the research related material. So this would be at least some sort of the general talk, because he was means I've been told that the various kind of the people starting from the first year to the let's say graduate student or the undergraduate student, all would be means they would be actually attending this thing. So it could be some sort of general talk which will give you a glimpse of the various kinds of the materials which had help the society basically, because whatever we are doing, we are actually doing the research just to help the society, and so that it can be used for good mankind thing actually. So before actually going to things, because we will be talking about some properties, and the properties has to be quantified actually many times actually. So importance of this thing is very the physical quantities, because when actually this is important not from the research point of view, in every aspect. I will give you some of the example also. I used to say this thing in my every class, that so whenever you report any result, it should have some actually unit basically. Without the unit, all these things are basically the meaningless basically. So let's say I ask you a question that how tall are you, or how much is your weight, then means I can get some numbers actually. Okay, and definitely with some unit actually, because that unit makes the sensibility to that particular number. Because let us say if I say that let's say someone height is 6 feet, okay, and if someone is saying that only 6, then I can add meter, kilometer, or anything, then it would be like a meaningless number, means it could not be like that. Okay, so this number, most of the time we only worry about the number, but its unit has its equal importance, and definitely the significant numbers that comes into as per the requirement, apart from the accuracy and all those things actually. Okay. So this is very, very important. I'll give you two situations where some means very bad things can have happened actually, or some in one case it was avoided. That why one should care about the unit. So the first one means you can go to the, or just type in a Google that Mars climate orbiter. So there was a mission, and in this particular mission, this was actually failed actually. And the problem was that actually the conversion of units basically. So in the simulation part, some of the things were done by the British people, and some people were done by most probably the American people, and they used a different kind of metric system. In one case it was the MKS, and in other case it was the FPS. And while converting that, while getting the final results, they did not care about the units, and the FPS is not converted into the foot pound. These things, they are not converted into the kilogram things. So means this kind of blunder has actually failed this particular mission in very long back actually. Okay, so in another case, it was actually related to the means it can lead to the very fatal also. The Air Canada Boeing, this particular jet, this was actually flying, and the problem was that the person who actually, or the who is responsible for the supply of the fuel, he had been told to about some 22,000 payload, and it was in kilogram, and then he converted into in liter. Okay, but this was supposed to do, but he was actually comfortable in gallons actually, probably the gallons or like that. So there was a confusion between these two, and means the aircraft was in the mid-air and cruising at a very high speed and 12,000 height. And that particular thing means now the whole thing can be means crashed, but this was avoided very means carefully with the means, because the pilot and the co-pilot they were quite trained, and within 100 kilometer of supply of 100 kilometer they could find the airstrip, and all this means bad, since it was avoided. So I was just saying that the means we as an physicist or any other kind of let's say scientist or anything, we have to worry about always the units, and this is very important thing actually. Now coming to this the materials part actually. Okay, so we know that the materials are all around actually. So basically most of the time when we think of a material, so they are basically in a major part categorized in two types. Basically one is the naturally grown, which we can get directly means from the nature, let us say wood, a normal wood actually, the natural wood or any other thing, and another thing which are like man-made actually. So I can get the fibers from the food like from a stem, and we can prepare the fiber in our laboratory or industry also, so man-made fiber. So based on these things, various kind of the materials, means if this thing is not the materials are not limited to this particular thing which is given in this particular slide. They're enormous depending on the application, depending on the what their ingredients. So one can prepare and have the various kinds of the materials. One can say that we have the conducting material, non-conducting material, insulating materials. One can say that we have the electric materials, let's say dielectric materials, the ferromagnetic materials, the nanomaterials. So various kind of the things, various kinds of the materials that are available. Okay, one can say that it could be organic and the inorganic or the combination of that. So it's not means so whatever this particular talk is not actually confined or the limited, and all those materials cannot be included in a one that particular this lectures actually. Okay, lecture. So just trying to limit ourselves. So mostly it means why I'm just saying the engineering materials, because like whatever the devices or the things which we use or which we have around us, most of the things they are actually have been engineered. Engineered means that means they have been prepared with some thought. Let us say the size optimization, cost optimization, their working efficiency, all those things. So some sort of means optimization of various kinds. They have been actually given in order to have as an outcome or the product of any thing actually. So let us say if I'm talking about hard disk or the computer, or let us say a device which is measuring the temperature, like a thermometer, any other things. So all these things have been optimized with some proper engineering actually. Most of the time we prepare the things as a lab scale without just these kind of the optimization, but when they go for the some real product for the industry, then this kind of the optimization is basically required. So whether it's in steel or let's say, which is basically the metallic particle or the non-metallic particles, basically this the cement, glass, ceramics. So we know means everywhere means we can see around us. Like in the porcelain bowl, we can just see that, or any other kind of flower vase, and all these things they just made from the ceramics and cement. We know that means whatever the building, it's a main material which binds the bricks actually. Okay. So what is required in developing a new type of material? So the creativity is very important. And this creativity is not limited to science actually. In any stream, whether you are doing the arts, business, mathematics, social science, anything you are doing. Otherwise, means you cannot achieve whatever the imagination you have, or you cannot fully or wholeheartedly work in that particular direction actually. So just look into the left hand side. This particular it's just a simple the circuit means integrated chips circuit, and people or the scientists, they could not achieve this thing just in a 1 or 2 day. They or the company or the people, they devoted so much of time, so much of let's say discussions, and all those things have been done apart from the progress of the let's say device fabrication. It's not like that only the processes are become so easy so that the people can do anything. Apart from that, actually the behind this kind of thing, the like a discussion and all is very, very important. Can anyone tell me what is in the right hand side this particular image? Anyone?
Mona Lisa.
Okay, okay. Actually, you are correct, but I would say that this is not. This is the. This is, you can say that, nano Mona Lisa. This particular. Can you see the scale bar? This is of 10 nanometer, and the whole thing is around 32 nanometer kind of, if I'm correct, if I remember. So this is this is done in a nanometer scale. So this is an image of that actually people had created. Now, why I'm saying that, is it a creativity? In a one sense, one can say that no, means creation of anyone's image at this particular, let's say, very, very small, or a nanoscale is not a creativity. But they created this thing for maybe some they know whatever the people who were behind this particular experiment, they did things. But this opens a world that even that particular very low feature of the nanometer regime, one can very precisely control and create any kind of feature, any kind of the feature. So this opens a new kind of this opens a door, and so the new things can be explored in this particular direction. So nanolitho, we will see that one of the basically this is done by the lithography technique, okay, or let's say local oxidation. So people local oxidation of the chemical entity. So with that actually people can do, and now basically that this particular lithography technique people can do the lithography up to 50 nanometers. So whatever the right now the chips which are being used, the integrated circuit chips which are being used, so they utilize those kind of the concept actually. And these things, this particular the miniaturization is still going on, reducing basically as the time passes by. Now this apart from this creativity, many times okay, we have the practicability also, okay, because all these things are related to the material basically. We cannot propose anything or prepare any material for an unsensible logic actually, or unsensible. It could be at that moment unsensible or not legitimate, but one has to think about that actually. So let us say this was proposed in 1950s that because yeah, even before that actually, that to have a nuclear reactor. So aeroplane or the airplane that will be basically powered by a nuclear reactor basically. Okay, and this particular B-36, this bomber in the US Air Force, this was actually connected with this nuclear fusion reactor basically at that particular time. And this particular plane, bomber plane, it took almost 47 flights, 47 times flights, but none of a time this reactor was on, because there was some issue. Means like if something happened to the plane, plane crash or something like that, this kind of unfortunate events happened, then that would lead to the very, very means fatal things actually, because people have seen the causes of this in Hiroshima and Nagasaki at that particular time. Okay, so still people are working on in this direction. Very few means basically the people in US Naval and Army laboratory, Air Force laboratory, they are working in this direction. But still the things are not like the ground level. Only the prototypes, not prototypes basically, I would say that the sketch or the simulated things, they have been occurred. So which means that the feasibility and the applicability is very, very important thing whenever any technology or any material you are proposing for that basically. apart from that, I have means you can just see that we have a recorder or the gramophone kind of thing. Then we move towards this kind of telephone, which is connected with some wire, and later on we have the mobile phone actually. So now this kind of technology means this one has to think of that also, because one has to think of the future, means what is the future of that particular technology which you are proposing, or which the material for which you are proposing, or you are trying to prepare for the material also. Okay, like one can say that, but this is not always true, that because in each of these three cases the whole technology is changed. But this is not always true. Let us, if I'm just take an example of gas engines actually. So around in 1880 kind of or 1885 kind of, the gas engines were invented, and since then still these gas engines are being used. Okay, so which means that now that particular technology is not, it is some sort of a modified and let's say rectified in order to have the good let's say mileage and all those good performance basically, but it's still that kind of that technology is still working. So this is actually the two different aspects of that actually. One can think of let's say the Kodak, the analog or the normal camera to the digital camera. So means there was a problem, means the Kodak could not actually it was resist to change, and that's why the Kodak has gone, and other digital camera companies, they have taken care of all those industry. But in 1980 or so, like the Kodak was means one of the means major that captures around 95 to 97% of the whole world market actually at that particular time. But he could not cope up with the coming up technology of the digital camera and all those actually. So one has to means think of that actually. So for that actually like some sort of literature survey, which we used to say that actually is in a bit more technical words is required. Okay, can anyone see means what is this the two glass kind of this thing?
Vacuum tube.
Yeah, it's written there. Yeah, vacuum tube. So basically means the diode and the triode. Basically, we used to say that, and tetrode or the pentode, depending on the number of electrodes which are there. And basically, these are replicated by the basically the PN junctions and the transistor and all those the devices which is made from the this semiconductor basically. Okay, so means these devices are very good. They are working. But there is some problem with the operations, their life, the space, the miniaturization. So the space was the very important issue, or let us say like that actually created was means it was not actually to have a very small device using this kind of vacuum tubes actually. Okay, so this kind of thing actually now, even though this was working, this was perfectly fine, but the size factor that actually makes these devices too obsolete actually. So we cannot means one cannot predict of like that actually. So this is actually the technology of the industry. In this way it goes actually. So now coming to, let's say, a simple device which most of the time we have actually, our phones actually. Not most of them, let's say almost everyone has some sort of a smartphone of any kind, and one can just see that some of the sensors, maybe your phone has more than these kind, more than or another sensor like that actually. So various sensors I have listed. So all these sensors are there. How they sense special things. Okay, what are the so they definitely they have been made, those sensors have been made from specific kind of material, so that they can actually sense only that particular thing. Let us say there is a proximity sensor is there. So proximity sensor has to just sense what comes in the proximity of that particular sensor. Okay, it should not sense, let us say, IR light or any other thing like that actually. So that, and the sensor should not interfere each other also. So otherwise you will not get means we will not get the correct result or the response from that particular device actually, or smartphone here. So this means what I'm trying to say that this material science actually in conjunction with the physics and the chemistry it develops so many things, and now all these things are helping us in a very miniaturized way. Okay, means what I'm trying to say that the gyroscope which we used to have in let us say in a bulky shape for the measurement, okay, or let us say the barometer in order to have a pressure measurement. Okay, now all those things are just inside your just mobile, maybe of 4 to 5 inch, like that actually, that thing. So these kind of miniaturization is done with the help of, I would say that the most of the thing is that the semiconductor conductor industry basically. So have you heard about this pitch drop experiment? So this is an experiment. So maybe not actually. This is the experiment which holds a Guinness World Record, that the longest running laboratory experiment, and this experiment is running since 1927 till now. Since 1927, this is running now actually, and it's just a simple experiment to measure the viscosity, of a liquid, which is actually the pitch here. Okay, and most of the time, many materials which appear to be solid to us, but they are not actually solid basically. So this is an example of that actually. So basically here in this experiment, the drops of that particular pitch, the material, they actually used to fall from the top to from the funnel. You can just see the funnel is here, from the funnel to this particular the beaker, which is here actually. Okay, beaker which is here. Okay, now but till now only you can just see that I think 8 or 9 drops, they have been just come out from the funnel only. Okay, and in around this period, a webcam was installed to see when that particular drop is fall. But unfortunately, the day where this drop fell, the webcam was not working. Okay, and in this particular period, around this period, this was recorded in the camera, but this earth drop was touching the material which is inside the beaker, so people did not consider it to be a free fall. And when they were removing this beaker, so in that scenario, this drop, it just cut off from the funnel actually. So what I'm saying that till now, since 1927, no one has visualized, no one has seen how when this particular drop is basically fell down from the funnel to this. So this is and this experiment is still going on basically. So people are doing the experiment in this particular way. So taking the inspiration from this various other institute or various laboratory, they are doing this kind of the experiment, not only to to measure the viscosity of any material, various other kinds of the experiment in that particular scale actually. So now, everything is like we have seen the sensor and all those different materials. Everything is related about the response what you are getting from a material. Okay. Now, why not the earlier material which were there? They were not giving the response like that actually. So materials were there. Like if I just say that the mercury, people were getting the temperature with the help of mercury. People were getting the, let's say, the pressure, measurement of pressure with the help of mercury. But now the materials they have, now people are saying that these materials are smart materials because they can predict the things which is in the surrounding, and accordingly they can actually change their property. For that actually that material is designed basically. So this is the basically the major difference between the traditional kind of material and the smart material. Now people are working about the smart materials and the functional materials. Basically they can do the more than one functions. or they have the combination of material. Let us say like a material which can show the magnetism as well as the dielectric property both. So like this kind of the materials actually. So material, same material, it can respond, it can give the susceptible to magnetic field, it is susceptible to the electric field also. So like that actually. Okay, so we will see the materials, but this classification of material, I was not thinking to put this slide here, but anyway, means people have saying that the solid materials. So now we have excluded this the liquid materials and the gassy materials like that actually. Okay, so now the solid materials, because most of the things around us is made of the, or it seems to be solid actually, most of the things, or many of the things basically, I would say that. Okay, so they are metals, ceramics, and polymers basically. Now people can say that you are saying the metal, then there are the insulator and let's say semiconductor, all those. So they are actually some sort of limited in the metallic category basically, or kind of. The ceramic materials, which you can just say that let's say the porcelain bowl. Okay, it could be let us say an aluminum tube, or it could be a wash machine in your room, in your home kind of. So all these things are actually ceramic kind of the material. They are very good, robust, and very good shape. Desired shape can be achieved, but they are actually some sort of brittle in nature basically. And the polymers, basically most of the time these polymers are organic kind of material, and they have the very long chain depending on that, and you can just play with this chain, and you can actually tailor or manipulate their property. And also the composite means that the combination of any of the two. So let us say if you have the polymer and the metal, so let us say in a polymer matrix, the metals are let's say just embedded there. So you have another class of the materials actually. Okay, that is known as the composite materials basically. Apart from that, actually, depending on the technology, depending on their applications, as I said earlier, that people can, or you can classify these things as a semiconductor, let's say biomaterial, nano-engineered materials, ferromagnetic material, ferroelectric materials, like that actually. Whatever means you can just think of the technology, and you can get or you can just propose the name like that. So just I'm giving you the examples of the smart materials. So what I know, I don't know means what you are just observing, but it's quite visible actually. Yeah, in this figure. So there is a cup is here, and its color is black. Okay, and some hot water is being poured from the kettle, and you just see that its color is being changed actually. Its color is being changed. And once after pouring whole, let's say filling up this cup, this almost is white color actually. So with that actually, this is what actually responding. This material is just responding to the external thing, and external thing is that the temperature basically. And now you just take out this hot water, and definitely again it will come out. It turns out to the from here to here. It will come to the back. Come back to here, the situation basically. So this is what actually one of the this material which is sensing, or let us say you change or basically stimulate basically that particular property. So just looking into this or looking into this, I cannot say that this material is any smart material. So means with the actually application of temperature, or let us say hot water, this material basically it stimulates, or it changes its some property. Let's say the property is here, the let's say color of this particular material. Okay. No, you can just think of that, or you can ask to yourself why this particular, the handle of this particular this cup is still black actually. Okay, means it's quite easy. You can just. So what are these external things? Like earlier I just said that this is the temperature. So what are the earlier things basically? So all these things actually this will actually to motivate you to think of any material or think of the applications around you, and so that you can at least propose the one material, another definite kind of material related to that particular situation, and then you can actually think of that whether that material can work or not with some laboratory basically. So apart from the temperature, which we have seen, one can stimulate the thing with the help of light, with the help of this pressure. Okay, basically I'm talking about the mechanical pressure basically. Okay, it could be electricity or voltage. With this electricity and voltage, both are the basically same thing actually. It's an I would say that electric field basically, or let us say current or the voltage. The pH value of the solution, basically the chemical compounds or the chemical environment around that. So there are various things that basically, it could be the magnetic field also, I forgot here. So all these things could be there. And other thing is that this change has to be reversible, because it is some sort of sensing thing. Then when you just take out, when you just remove this particular let's say external stimulated agent or this particular feature, then it should go back to the previous situation. It should go back to the previous situation, and it should repeat it. It should be repeated. So repeatability with that accuracy is very, very important. Means this is, we know that, and you all know that for any device application. Okay. So now I found it in means the wiki basically. This is just terms taken from the wiki, that there are various kind of the chromism. So this is one of the property like which material changes its color basically. Chromism just like the change of the color basically. One of the things we know that the dichroic material or the like in optics we have studied about that depending on the color they have the different focal length like that actually. So again, so here the change of the color, basically the wavelength and all the optical properties, they are being changed with the help of some external agent basically. So it could be changed with the help of light, temperature, electric current, some redox reaction, it's a polarity, concentration, ion, means many things are there, various things, electric field, magnetic field, various things are there. So people had tried, and they are still trying to actually manipulate the properties of materials with the help of external agents, external things, because it's very easy to play with these parameters, the external parameters, and that will definitely affect the properties of that particular thing, and then they can utilize it for the various application or the demanded means whatever the designed application that they have. So some of them I'm just taking that the halochromic materials, where the simple example is that where the change is occurred with the help of pH value. Okay, so which means that we know that basically this litmus paper, this is one of the simple thing which we had used it maybe in some chemistry classes, chemistry laboratory also. So we can find it out, and we know that the red color is for I think acidic, and the blue color is for the basic reason actually. So red turns out to be less than 7, and blue turns for the pH is greater than 7. Okay, like that. Okay, if I'm correct. But not only from here, these litmus papers or this kind of the measurement or this kind of the materials, basically, they are not only for the limited to the chemistry or the chemistry measurement or chemistry related measurement. Means we can, people are using it for the garden or the soil testing, pool water testing, but everywhere is skincare product, but everywhere what they are doing, basically they are playing with the, or the sensing the acidity or the basic character of that particular thing which are present in there actually. But one thing one has to remember that like not always this kind of the change will is basically the reversible, or not always this kind of the change will give you the information about the pH or any other thing. So this thing one has to actually check with the various let's say various test materials and the various other properties. For example, basically if I just say that if I'm using a chlorine gas, actually, let's say I want to check the chlorine gas is some sort of, let's say, acidic or the basic or this kind of the feature. So this gas turns the blue paper to white basically. So blue paper to white, then I can say that now this is neither acidic or the nor the basic. Okay, but but do you know that what is the normal color of the litmus paper? Normal color means without adding any acidic or the basic solution. It is around like some sort of light blue color or the purple kind of the color. Basically, this is what actually this color is. But when this chlorine is added, so a new color which we don't know, we cannot say that whether this is a acidic or the basic or any other thing. Basically, people had did some further investigation, and they found that this particular white region that is actually bleached out. The chlorine is some sort of the bleaching agent, so it just bleached out and deposited the hypochlorite ions. And this reaction is irreversible. So this time actually this particular method or this litmus test paper test, this is not giving the indication about the let's say pH value or the acidic or the basic nature which is present with the chlorine. So one has to check this in this aspect also. Okay. So if people can think of any another material which can do the similar kind of the thing, so means that will be added to the definitely the community. Another kind of the material, basically the thermochromic material, so which means that the color is changed with the help of temperature. I gave you an example of that cup actually. Okay, so another the same thing basically. So here this is a spoon basically. Now actually in Western country, the cutlery or the utensil which is basically used by the small kids, they have this kind of the material basically, so that they can know that or actually the parents or the caretakers, they can know how much is the temperature is there. I mean whether that thing is suitable for their kids or not actually. Okay, so these things actually, even apart from this, how to measure the fever of a small kid actually, that is also is not an easy task actually. So people do this kind of the thermochromic material paste is there, so they just stick on the body or the anywhere region, and then they can measure out with the help of color code, they can measure out the temperature basically. Another thing which I don't know means how many you know about this steganography. Basically, whatever you write and that becomes invisible. Have you played with this kind of thing or studied about this kind of thing in any means, let's say in your childhood or law? So anyone, let's say you have written something and it's invisible, and when you just heat it and then it will come out on the paper with some onion juice.
Sir, lemon, like if you dip a cotton swab in a lemon and write something on the paper, it won't be visible. But after heating that paper, the written stuff will be visible.
Yeah. So same thing. It's the same thing. So people means use this onion and lemon juice and all those things, just giving you a home example, actually homemade material basically. But the leucodized titanium dioxide, so most of the time I will be using this particular titanium dioxide basically. This is a very famous material, and it can be used for in enormous application. Let's say in your household also, it's there. Most of the cosmetic products, they have this titanium. Okay, titanium dioxide basically. Okay, so this particular material, not this means the class of material, they are also being used in the steganography basically in the security point of view also. The specific kind of the ink is used in the currency also basically. Okay, so this is means just an example where as a function of temperature, the properties, basically the properties of the material is basically changed actually. Another material is the photochromic. Again, we have seen that many of times this ultraviolet is not good for human body. And this ultraviolet UV light, actually, if this passes through some specific kind of let's say material, which is basically halide, silver halide, here the particles are there, then this color of this particular lens, it would be basically becomes darker and darker. So the more, so this is what actually the photochromic lenses people are using. So if they are in a let's say inside the room or so the lens color would be around this much, normal lens. But when they are in let's say sunlight, depending on the intensity of sunlight, so it colors basically increases, and again they come back, so it go back to the previous situation. So this is what the photochromic. So this is responsible. This is responding to the the sunlight or the basically light basically. So color is changes with the help of this. Now people are using this thing in these pigments in the improving the security point of view. Okay, the electrochromic material there, maybe have you seen this any smart window? Maybe. Okay, so this is smart windows or the electrochromic material. They change the color with the help of electric field, basically electric field. So just what you can do, you can change the color, or you can make a window to transparent and opaque basically. So or you can people had tailored this thing. Let us say how much amount of the light. So window is open always, all the time, and how much amount of the light or how much intensity basically of the light you are allowing to enter in your room basically. So with that actually you can apply that given kind of the electric field, basically the potential to that, and this will work basically. So maybe let us say a window that is appears to be, let us say, open, opaque, transparent basically. But as soon you turn on the switch, means basically the electric field, basically here what is happening that in this the devices which are available in the market basically. So there are at least 6 or 7 layers, layered materials are there, and this the lithium ions, they basically changes their the positions from the one electrode, let's say from the bottom to the top, or the front to the rear side basically, and they actually make this particular window to be basically operated as per your need basically. And this is not only in the let's say window in household or the building. It can be actually being used in the basically the in automobile industry, where this they are doing the tinting of the rear view mirror so that in the in the night so that you can have the better night vision when you are looking in the car or the vehicle which is coming from the back side also. So again here they said look into this that tungsten oxide actually is there. Okay, so not only the tungsten oxide, molybdenum oxide, titanium oxide, sorry, not tungsten, titanium oxide, niobium oxide. So various oxides are there. Okay, so now these oxides many times we just put them in a ceramic category basically, the second category of that actually. Okay, and these are basically, you can say that the inorganic compounds, but the various organic compounds are also used. Why the organic compounds are used? Because they are some sort of polymer, so they basically flexible actually. So like now the flexible windows or the curvy kind of features, so all these things they can be implemented, and the people are using the Velogens. This is the one of the commercially material which is being used, but all of the materials they have the conducting thing, or I can say because it has to be conducting, otherwise it will not respond to the electric field or the electric potential, because they have to be embedded or the work as an electrode. So these are basically the an example of where the color basically, it's not most of the time people saying it's color changing, but I can say that it's it can control not only the color, but it can control the amount of light which will be entering to there. Okay, so what people are doing, people are basically installing the solar panel in the same window, and they are trying to let's see whatever the light which is being not going into the your room or the office, then can that is if it is reflected, then that can also be utilized in the solar cell, so that the output of the solar cell can be improved. So people are doing in this direction, and all these things are working. Means in the South Korea, there are various buildings or the various things, they have this kind of the window. I have seen actually. Okay. Now the self-healing concrete. So this is a very This is not a very new thing actually. This is people are using in since around 1900 or even before that actually. Okay, but they were using the like some sort of homemade things. Now this scientist or the civil engineers, they studied the things and they have actually the various other things to improve that thing basically. So let us say this is a crack which happens due to wear and tear from the environment. Okay, now if we add something there, if we add, let us say, what we do, we just coat cement and other material from here. So basically this is what the healing which is done by the man. Okay, so let us say while preparing this wall or this roof, if some specific kind of the material is there and that material itself let's say heals whenever a crack and all these things is created. So whenever, let us say, crack is created, so at that particular crack level the moisture thing would be increased, and that moisture or the water content, let us say, it reacts with this whatever the ingredients are there. So that thing actually let's say produce some kind of calcium carbonate or any other material, and it can actually heal this thing. And people have seen that with that the optimized material, the healing of 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter region, it is done in 7 days actually. Okay, so these kind of the self-healing concretes, they are also very useful, but not in a very large scale. So if this comes out to be, then this will be basically, we will not have this kind of the maintenance like which we will be having in our department basically. Okay. Another thing is that the shape memory alloys. This is very important kind of a feature in a, so alloy which remember its shape basically. So like a rubber kind of thing. So let us say within the limit, elasticity limit, if we expand it or let us say compress it, then it will come back to its original situation. So same thing. So metals are also there. So let us say you take a rod of aluminum somehow, just take an example, and you just put some force so that it bend down, and when you leave it, it will come up. So this is what the special material. So usually the nickel and titanium. So again, titanium is there. So nickel, titanium, the nitinol, this is a material which is being used in the basically we have the products of that, and the heart surgery basically in the heart surgery, the stent and all those things, they have been made from this material itself basically. So what one has to do? One has to, when material is this kind of material is whatever the shape and all requirement you have. Let us say you want to prepare this stent. So with that particular material, you just prepare this thing and give it a heat treatment around a specific temperature. Then now this is the actual shape of this particular material. Now with the help of some external force, you can basically play with that. You can, let's say, compress it or stretch it, and then it will come back to the same situation basically. So like in the dentist, eyewear, basically we have lenses, not lenses, basically the frame, basically the frames, they are made from the nitinol also, so that you can bend it like in a very random way basically, and they will come back to their own situation basically. And definitely in a heart surgery, it should not be R, it should be and basically. Okay, and the catheters, stents, and all these things, basically these are basically in the field of medical the applications. Apart from that, another example is that the intelligent reinforced concrete. Basically when a building is people are creating the building, so they are adding few rods of this material also. I don't know how many where this kind of the technology is being used, but I read the various research paper they used basically at that particular time. But any building which is created or which has this kind of the material as a rod or for the support, that I don't know. But if they are, it is claimed that definitely, let's say if earthquake is coming out like that, then definitely they will retain their shape. Basically, they will not break that. Apart from that, definitely depending on the level of earthquake, not only this rods, basically the concrete material, the brick walls, and all those things has to be at least sustained with that, basically. Okay. So anyway, means this kind of this material, basically nitinol or any other kind, but this is not an this is means not only one material. There are various other kinds of material, basically in the family of Husler alloy, the nickel manganese antimony, that is also a shape memory alloy and it being used in the industry. So this is just one, not one actually, the various application or the various aspects of this shape memory alloys, basically. And why alloy? Means because it's not from a one material, and means more than one element from the periodic table they have been used. Now another thing is that is based on the quantum tunneling, actually, the quantum tunneling and composite material. So composite means that now the two different class of material, let us say one is metal and other one is, let us say, the polymer, you can just say that. Okay. And let's say in a polymer, if we want to prepare the polymer to be conducting. Okay, so it's difficult to prepare a polymer to be conducting, basically. So what do we just add the conducting particle? Let's say we have some polymer and we add, let's say, gold particles are there. Okay, now if we are adding the gold particles, then we cannot tailor their positions. Actually, they will be sparsed, basically. They have the random location in that particular matrix of the polymer, basically. Now, if somehow we do some pressure, let us say we give some pressure, just taking an example. Okay, we give some pressure. So now what will happen? Now these atoms, these particles, they will come close to each other. Okay, and now when we apply some potential difference, then the current can flow. Now the electrons, they can tunnel from one atom to the another atom, because now they are very close to each other. So the quantum tunneling phenomena can happen here, and this insulator material, which was the polymer, the insulator or the let's say semiconductor, and that material becomes conducting as a function of basically the your pressure, which is what you are applying. So now you can control the current flow by applying the pressure in that particular polymer matrix, basically. Okay, so this is the quantum tunneling phenomena, and based on that, actually various things have been various touchable membranes they have been actually prepared. And the most the mobile phones or the display devices, they have some sort of the display device, they have this kind of the feature, basically. Okay, various cloths, they have been applied, they have been made for this kind of pressure to control the basically the weather or the environmental issues. This kind of the jackets, they have been made basically on this material. Okay, so this it's not like that. It's not a very simple thing, basically, because the material has to be now what is the here. So your material has to be such that it should have the low work function. And so all these things which is related to the quantum tunneling phenomena, it has to be applicable here, basically. So what I'm saying, that all these the different class of materials which we have seen so far, it's not like that we take a material and think we just think of some application and we take a material and trying to expect that thing from there. So one has to think of the various physical rules, physical laws behind that, and the working principle of that, and then accordingly one can start working or thinking of that thing as an outcome of that. This is the very simple. I mean, most of you know that the piezoelectric materials, where you just apply some the pressure, it could be tensile or the compressive, and you get an electric signal or the voltage out of that, basically. And the very and with this particular piezo sensor or the piezoelectric material, the atomic force microscopy which is actually you can measure, or you can down to nano levels. You can just see the forces you can measure, and you can visualize the atoms out of that. So atomic force microscopy, or the tunneling scanning tunneling microscopy, the hardcore is this the piezoelectric material, because very fine control of the scanner of the order of nanometer or of the order of micron can be only attained by the piezoelectric materials actually. And not only this, this moment, various other options are there. They can oscillate, so you can find out their frequency very easily, very accurately, and you can utilize that particular oscillation frequency for various other applications actually. Okay, just like I have it here. Okay, maybe some of the students don't know that, because we discussing about it. Okay, now just giving you just an example of this piezoelectric, the same thing actually. So the Goodyear, the company which make the tires. Okay, so means this company was having a plan. I don't know whether they utilize this thing or not, but actually they just put they had to put some piezoelectric material in that particular tire actually, so that as the tire is moving very high speed, so basically and it experiences the pressure difference also at the various portion of the that particular tire, and definitely it will generate the electric voltage or the electricity, and they can utilize that electricity in the various parts of that particular, in that car or any automobile things actually. Another thing people had developed for the, at least in the laboratory scale, that let us say if this material is in the sole of my shoe or anyone, and then while I'm walking, then basically the pressure difference is applied. So with that walking, I can generate the power there. So people had actually they did some calculation that if I'm walking around 8,400 steps, then it can actually recharge a 12-volt battery. Means this was actually demonstrated, but I don't know whether this is coming to the market or not with this particular device. But one can think of in that particular direction, that the piezoelectric materials actually based on this. So where you have the electric field, and that electric field changes the dimension of the material basically, or let us say it exposes, it gives the some force on the material. Okay, now, or I can have the reverse of that. Let us say if I apply the stress or the strain to the material, then I will get the electric force. Now look into this thing, the dimension on the both direction basically. So volume is conserved, so even if let's say the diameter is increasing, so then the length is decreasing, and the length of this particular disk is decreasing. So volume has to be conserved basically. This is the mass conservation basically. The transducers, the piezo transducer basically, so that you can convert a signal or an energy to the another form, and that you can measure basically, or that you can read it basically. So various transducers, let us say a simple thing is that the vibration of phone basically in the mobile phone or any other device. So just as the call is coming, so an electric pulse or electric signal is given to that particular piezo transducer, and it vibrates very. So this is how this the phone vibrates basically, and people, what people can devices are there. Let us say you just give some small pressure, or you just give some pressure from your mouth. Let's say you are speaking something, so that is giving some vibration to this particular transducer, and that will create a some force you are basically applying to that particular material. So it will generate some electric voltage, and that you can amplify, and that you can actually generate for, let us say, to get a sound or any other thing. So this is how actually this kind of the basically the actuators of the transducer, they are also being made, and they're working basically. And so just only this material, you can just, this is the white material, this is what the piezoelectric material, and the top and bottom, these are the two different types of basically. The magnetostrictive material. So so far we talked about the electric field, so let's introduce some of the magnetic field also. So here basically let us say let's say as the simple thing is that you apply a magnetic field to the material, and that magnetic field will actually change the shape of that thing. Okay, again keeping the volume constant. And one example is this thing, terphenol D, because it consists of terbium, it consists of iron, and this is developed in the Naval Observation Laboratory in USA. So that's why they have the NOL, and D is for the dysprosium. And this is the material which is being used. But apart from that, various other materials are there, and the field is open. Why only this material is being used? Because it is having the very high response, almost 2 millimeter per meter actually. So let us say you have 1 meter length of this material and you apply a magnetic field, then a maximum change of 2 millimeter, which is a very good number, very good number, is obtained or is actually achieved by this particular material. And they can be used for various industrial vibrators, ultrasonic cleaning, sonar application, various applications they are being actually used. Okay. Now the ferrofluid, I don't know means how many of you know that. So a fluid which is which is magnetic material, and that magnetic material is added to there. So I can say that a fluid which is magnetic in nature basically, or which responds to the external magnetic field. You can just see from here the two figures actually. So this can be actually, basically it's a colloidal solution. And now where this is being used, this is very important to know that the Mantian, we have the hardest devices which we have actually, and we know that at a very high speed the rotor is rotating around let's say 70 to 100 RPM, like that. So as a lubricant of that particular bearing, so this device, this liquid is using, and it serves as a production of field as well as not production, it responds to the external magnetic field, so that one can actually control the speed of that particular rotating device, and as well as a lubricant to that particular things actually. Apart from that, various speakers, headphones, all this, because there is a voice coil is there, so voice coil is generating too much heat to get out this heat from there, or extract the heat from there to prevent the damage. The various devices, whether it's a laptop, cell phone, so where the speakers are there, people are using. But I don't know in India this thing is being implemented or not actually. The thermoelectric material means, as the name is there, means there are electric materials which responds, or let us say the thermal means heat will be response with the help of electric field, or the vice versa, electric field is responsible with the thermal of the heat basically. So depending on that, so let's say temperature difference that will create an electric potential, or the electric potential will create the temperature difference. A simple example is the thermocouple, which most of us know that. The Seebeck series basically we have studied in +2 level. Okay, so apart from the Seebeck, we have the Peltier, Thomson, and the Thomson. Basically, it's a reversible process, a combination of these two, Seebeck and the Peltier. A simple thing is that from this particular schematic, so let us say a heat is given to the material, so definitely this particular thing would be hot. Okay, as compared to the bottom one. And now if we just take out this thing here, so this one is a hot junction, this one is the cold junction, and the potential difference will develop across these two, and we will get a electric power out of that. Another thing is that let us say if you give some power to the material, so this particular thing will absorb the heat from there. So let us say in a container where is a hot oil is there, hot material is there, and now you want to cool that thing, you want to maintain some temperature. Okay, so what you do, you just put this basically the cooler. Let us say if I say if it is cooling down, then I will say that it's a cooler. So let's say you put this cooler and give some current to this, so heat from this will be absorbed, and this particular thing would be outside of this particular container, so this will be or let us say the back side of there, so the heat will be taken out. So this is being used. I mean, in an Amazon you can get this Peltier cooler in a, let's say, few bucks actually, maybe 400-500 like that actually, rupees basically. This is being used in the maybe, I don't know, means high-end computing computers or the workstation, or maybe your laptop also, just for the cooling of integrated circuit or the devices actually, or various other applications in industry they are being used. Now the meta materials, I think this would be the last material I have. This is a very fascinating materials basically, and you look into that. This figure is showing the Snell's law. So light is going from here, and we know that it should go to there. But these are the materials which blocks the light here, and all the light will become here. Okay, now you cannot say that this is a total internal reflection, because here that the condition of that refractive index or the rare to denser medium, those things are not met. So it's a simple thin situation where we are applying the Snell's law in a simple way, and the light is coming back here. So basically this is you can say that the negative refractive index material. So people are creating the combination of negative refractive index as well as the material, so that they can be used for in various application. And the very famous application which people are working is that to hide some object, the invisibility clock. And in the Duke University, in a 2 or 3 years back, they had actually demonstrated that they put some object in a container, and this was not able to see by microwave light actually. So for that microwave basically per light, a microwave beam, the thing the object was clogged, it could not detect that material. Now people are trying to do making these things for the visible light. So the Harry Potter the show, that will be actually maybe possible in near future, when the objects can be hide in the visible light also. So now apart from that, actually basically they are the waves which are going there, and they have to usually go across the boundary, but they have been reflected back. So using this thing, people are making for the sound silencer. So let us say a sound wave is going and across the boundary, now it is coming back. So this particular reason would be silenced actually. Sonar deflector, earthquake dampener, heat shielder. So heat wave they can be. So all these things are people have made, and people are still working. But this is a not a very it's a means open. Not open means not thoroughly discussed. So people are still working in this direction to develop new class of material. Most of the time people use the gold nanoparticles here, or the gold microparticles, whose cancer, the SPR, the surface plasmon resonance, or the high spin or coupling. These things are very, very well connected with this. So people are still trying to establish good material, so that they can improve the properties, as well as they can come from the microwave region to the visible region or the UV region kind of actually thing. Okay. And finally, we have this is a new thing, that the insulators, when you combine them, they form an electron gas. I mean, they form a highly conducting region, very, very highly conducting region. So just giving an example of LA or STU, or these are some insulators. Okay. Okay, and look into this here in this particular figure. So when they combined, means the thin films of these two are prepared. So so up to, let us say 2 or 3, up to this much thickness, the conductivity is very, very small, 10 to the power minus 9, or even lower than that. That is a measurement limit actually. Okay, now once you prepared a specific thickness, let's say you increase a bit of thickness, okay, but still mind it, all these are the unit cell. They are not angstrom, they are not nanometer, they are the unit cell basically. So they are still very, very small numbers basically. Okay, thickness, let's say the SRTiO3 unit cell is around 3.9, let's say 4 angstrom kind of. So let us say here I will be having around 16 angstrom or the 20 angstrom kind of thickness is there. Okay, so in this region the conductivity increases from 10 to the power minus 10, let's say 10 to the power minus 5, like that. So almost 5 order change in the conductivity is very, very means a significant number. And so, and up to means there is a graph that it will like that, it will there, or it's not always linear, and after that it will decrease again. Okay, sharp decrease again. Okay, so within some particular thickness region, this forms a very high conducting region, and people say that this is a 2-dimensional, because it's a thin film confined in a 2-dimensional region, and it's an electron gas basically. People are saying that. Okay, the reason is given for that, the polar catastrophe. That I think time is not that much. Otherwise, I could have discussed the polar catastrophe. This thing. Okay, maybe in the little time, if we have the time, we can discuss it. That the spintronics. we know that the electronics which is controlled by the spin of a electron, so that is the spintronics. So electric charge, they are being manipulated by the spin, and outcome is we have in our mobile, we have the, not mobile, basically in our computer or the laptop, we have the hard disk, basically they are being used. So right now people are using cobalt, chromium, platinum, but now this will be replaced by the iron, platinum, because the technology is going to very change. From this year we are going to from this not this rotation kind of thing, we will be, now we have the solid state basically devices, and later on we are having the HAMR, heat assisted magnetic recording, where a laser will change the, or the flip the magnetic state of the bit, and the data can be stored on the read from there. And Seagate had prepare, I mean, it produced basically the products are already available. The 16 terabyte hard disk, just a simple, whatever the hard disk we have, the same thing. It's just a in a 3.5 inch drive, in a 16 terabyte. I mean, even more than that, people are trying to think of that actually. Now, have you read about this thing, the hard disk drive with the helium? Yeah, means they are available, and you just look into that. The Seagate has a 10 terabyte hard disk. It's available in the Amazon. In India also, they can be shipped to India. And HDST, they have again the 12 terabyte of, they are having the helium there. So helium means there are just giving you just as a material point of view that the gases can also play an important role. Let us say, for example, here to basically improve the storage capacity of a hard disk drive. Means why helium only? That there is various reasons, and you might be knowing that the particles are very, very small, so the air drag, the friction will be very, very small, like that actually. Yeah. Apart from that, various other kinds of the material, you know that basically, so that's why I did not include them in the photovoltaic material. The electroactive materials, where you can change, basically they are similar to the piezoelectric material, where you can apply the electric field and your volume or the length dimension can be changed. Photomechanical, where you the change the shape, this is again the similar thing, but here the dimensions are changed with the exposure to the light basically. The magnetocaloric material is again a very new class of material. Only few materials, I think 4 or 5 materials, they have been prepared or they studied so far, and this is actually where you apply a magnetic field and then you can lower down the temperature, and people had achieved 300 millikelvin. 300 millikelvin in a dilution refrigerator. Basically, there is a system with the help of adiabatic demagnetization. Basically, the magnetic calorie effect is the physics people, they say that it's an adiabatic demagnetization there, and this is people are using to achieve the very, very low temperature. Basically, the millikelvin. Not I'm saying that milli-degree Celsius or like that. It's the millikelvin, 300 millikelvin like that, or even lesser than that. Now, apart from that, actually, just take one or just 5 minutes more. There are some class of materials which you just change the things actually. So there is a one class of material, and you just play with the ingredients, play with the, let's say, the periodic table, and you can generate maybe when the PMA is perpendicular magnetic anisotropy, safe memory, spin injection, magnetocalorics, heavy fermionic material, Kondo system, Seebeck effect, semiconductors, thermoelectric materials, superconductors. You just see the sort of superconductors, sort of metal to the superconductor and the insulator. So all these things, they can be just prepared just by playing with the same class. So there is the same class of material, and you can play with that actually, and you can tune their property as per that actually. So this is the, and to my actually, it's just these are the my points that the top 10 advances in the material science, you can just look into that. These are the things, and that this would be actually a game changer in the near future. The devices which are flexible and stretchable, and also the wearable, and not only for the health monitoring purpose and various other purpose. Basically, all things you know that, but this would be this flexible. This would be basically the game changer thing in the near future, basically. And this the whatever the trends which are going as for the Forbes list. You know all these things. Again, from my point of view, this the quantum computing on the quantum secure transmission, quantum cryptography. These things definitely will take and will boom, and they will take ahead. They will take a leap in this direction, and definitely that will actually change. Game changer will be there. Do you know what is this? Anyone? This image? What is there? What depicts? What this image depicts? It's a thermal. It's a house basically. It's a thermal imaging. It's a thermal imaging. People are doing the thermal imaging to get the exact dimensions of whatever the things which are hidden in the room. Let us say a pipe which is in the brick. Okay, and we don't know that, and let us say a pipe which is hidden in the brick, and it may have some crack on all those. So all these things people are trying to get with the help of this kind of the technology, and this comes with the help of the material science or the materials which are given by the scientists. Now you can think of, or this is some sort of the take-home message. Let's say you are a designer for car manufacturer or the interior decorator or so, and someone has asked you to create a best driving or the living experience. So what are the different sensor, different kind of materials you can just think of and you can incorporate hypothetically, and then you can just search what are the available things in the market or in the industry and what are not, and then you can think of it in this particular way actually. Okay, so thank you for all, and definitely thank you for your patience for listening. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. So now if participants have any questions or queries, I encourage them to type them in chat.
I think as usual, no one has any questions.
I have just only one doubt. So, like you have been discussing regarding an instrument that was the experiment that was giving the viscosity measurement.
Yes,
right?
yeah, pitch drop experiment. Yes.
Yeah. So, what is the actual accuracy of that experiment, sir? Like,
no, means it's not completed yet, because till now, so far only 8 or 9 drops they have been recorded, they have been just dropped, and no one knows that at what time that drop is fell down basically. Okay, so no outcome of that experiment till now.
No, so like, okay, basically in that experiment they were using bitumen, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So but bitumen usually has some viscosity which has been pre-done by some experiments.
Yes.
So how is there any sort of a deviation which they can observe from the known measurement and the one?
No, that's why I said that no outcome from that experiment, because whatever the 8 drops earlier, so they were done without any webcam, so they do not know when it will form. The first drop fell maybe in after 8 years or so, like that actually, and after that they installed the webcam also to record at what time the drop will fell down or like that, but somehow or to some reason it could not be recorded. So to do so, people are various other peoples, they are doing the laboratory basically, they are doing the same kind of the experiment, and so far means no any that kind of the result, I can say, or outcome from there.
Okay, yeah, that's it from my side.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Adit.
Recently, I read an article about some NASA rover. They implemented shape memory alloys in their wheels to match with the terrains. But as far as I know, this shape memory alloys, they need some kind of trigger to regain their shape. Like I remember watching somewhere where water is poured on them, hot water, something that sort of. So do you have an idea like what was the trigger there? Like there are some different materials which regain their shape in due time, or do all those materials need some trigger, some external trigger?
What exactly material they used, I cannot comment on that. But let us say it could be the pressure or it could be the temperature. It could be the pressure or the temperature. With that, actually, also the shape can also be changed. Not only with the help of let's say pressure, but from the temperature also, from the environmental pressure also, the dimension can also be changed.
So in short, it needs some trigger, right? Like
yes, definitely. Yeah, all these materials, they have to be stimulated. Whatever the materials I showed here, in every cases, basically this is a difference between the traditional and the let's say smart material. They have to triggered with some external stimuli. So that would be that should be there.
Okay, sir. And regarding the piezoelectric material you talked about, the shoes where you walk and you generate power, why isn't it yet implemented? Like, what was a problem with the calculations they calculated?
No. Let us say
it's a small amount. Like it is actually implementable, right? So
yeah, people did. Now people did at a laboratory scale. Let us say you wear a shoes, and let us say I add some battery to there. Because we are walking, and that with that walking, that electrical signal has to be stored in some battery. Okay, so which means that definitely it will increase the weight of that particular your shoes, and that will actually affect your walking style, walking habit like that. Okay, so these are the again few things which restricts this kind of the applications.
Yes, sir. Because like when I was in my school time, like we had this project. We had thought about preparing a kind of carpet of this piezoelectric materials to be placed in heavily crowded areas.
Yeah, in Korea, and I'm not sure about, but in South Korea there are some let's say in a big building where they have the entrance, so they have this kind of the thing. It's there.
Yes. Yeah, like it had dual functionality. Like first of all, it generates electricity, and again based on the amount generated, it can also give a rough count of number of people who have entered or exited.
Yes. So they have like the same kind of scene. Let's say in a shopping mall, we have entrance where they detect with the help of RF signal. So they have this kind of the barricadings, and to supply the power they are getting from that particular mat actually. So they have this kind. It's there.
If it's kind of free energy basically, because only cost is in the construction of the making of the
Yes.
Why, my question is, why isn't it implemented everywhere? What's the issue? Like, is it the cost of the piezoelectric material, or is there some other issue that's not allowing people to implement it?
First of all, actually the thing is that like the weather conditions also very important. Let us say if your shoes are let's say wet, okay, or let's say some water is there or any other thing, so definitely that will affect it can damage that particular portion, or it may actually degrade the quality of or the performance of that particular device. So these apart from the cost, these things are very these other things are means hamper the uses of these devices in a practical way, or in a more general way basically.
So it's entirely due to external factors, not like some errors with the
no, man, because they have the lifespan actually, each of the materials. So it's not like that you can use the material that doormat for let's say 4 or 5 years like that actually. Okay, so with the help with the passage of time, the degradation would be there. So again, new cost will come up actually. Okay, so maintenance cost and all these things are quite high. But people can actually explore these things by putting in a, let us say, in a small region. Let's say, for example, here in Surat we have the bus corridor is there. So in a whatever the very busy station, so one can install this thing near the let's say entrance of that particular thing, and then let's see as a pilot project. Let's see how it goes and how it responses. And then after that one can do the optimization of that actually.
That's it. About the cost, I remember reading somewhere that it's only quartz material that's used there. Yeah, quartz acts as a
Actually, I think lead titanate is the very well-known piezoelectric material being used in the industry. Actually, okay, but people are avoiding lead actually because it's not a good material. It's not a good material actually. So that is why. So in a laboratory, you can do or we can do many things actually. But when it comes in let's say industry basically, or let us say the practical application for the mass actually, then various constraints apart from the cost optimization, they comes into picture basically.
Yes. Yeah.
But as a pilot project in a small region, one can think of or one can start, and let's see how it responds, and based on that one can go ahead with that.
Yes. Yeah. That's it, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay.
I guess we're at the end now. On behalf of the entire physics club, I'm grateful to Himanshu sir for accepting our invitation and being our guest today. Today's talk did fascinate us with all those cool facts and amazing trivia. It was very informative and equally enjoyable as well. We hope everyone who joined us benefited from these lectures and gained some perspective on these physics topics. Thank you, Kane Pathak sir, for taking time out of your schedule, attending our talks, and always supporting and encouraging us. Thank you, Dimple ma'am, for always having our backs and encouraging us along the way. Thank you, Shail Pandey ma'am, for attending today's talk. We are grateful to all the participants for joining in 5 p.m. on Saturdays, asking questions, and making this series a success. Finally, thanks to our physics club members for working behind the scenes, making sure that everything went well. With that, I wish you good health, stay safe, and see you very soon. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavya.